We moved slowly. There was often feeding, and we would have to wait. One day, he decided to cause an earthquake, at the same time rooting us to the spot with nails through the soles of our shoes. Ellen and Nimdok were both caught when a fissure shot its lightning bolt opening across the floor plates. They disappeared and were gone. When the earthquake was over, we continued on our way. Benny, Gorster, and myself. Ellen and Nimdok were returned to us later that night, which abruptly became day as the Heavenly Legion bore them to us with a celestial chorus singing, "Go down, Moses." The archangels circled several times and then dropped their hideously mangled bodies. We kept walking, and a while later, Ellen and Nimdok fell in behind us. They are no worse for wear, but now Ellen walked with a limp. Am left her that. It was a long trip to the ice caverns to find the canned food. Ellen kept talking about big cherries and Hawaiian fruit cocktails. I tried not to think about it. The hunger was something that had come to life, even as Am had come to life. It was alive in my belly, even as we were in the belly of the earth, and Am wanted the similarity known to us. So he heightened our hunger. There was no way to describe the pain of not having eaten for months brought us. And yet, we were kept alive. Stomachs that were merely cauldrons of acid, bubbling, foaming, always shooting spears of silver thin pain into our chest. It was the pain of terminal ulcers, terminal cancer, terminal paresis. It was an unending pain, and we passed through the cavern of rats, and we passed through the path of boiling steam, and we passed through the country of the blind, and we passed through the slough of despond, and we passed through the vale of tears, and we came finally to the ice caverns. Horizonless, thousands of miles in which the ice had formed in blue and silver flashes where the novas lined in the glass, the down-dropping stalactites as thick and glorious as diamonds that had been made to run like jelly and then solidified in a graceful eternities of smooth, sharp perfection. We saw the stack of canned goods, and then we tried to run for them. We fell in the snow, and then we got up and went on, and then Benny shoved us away and went at them. He pawed at them, gummed them, and gnawed at them, and he couldn't open them. Am had not given us a tool to open the cans. Benny grabbed the 3-quart can of guava shells and began to batter it against the ice banks. The ice flew and shattered, but the can was merely dented while we heard the laughter of a fat lady high overhead and echoing down and down and down the tundra. Benny went completely mad with rage and began throwing cans. As we all scrabbled about in the snow and the ice, trying to find a way to end the helpless agony of frustration, there was no way. Then Benny began to drool. He flung himself at Gorster. In that instant, I felt terribly calm. Surrounded by madness, surrounded by hunger, surrounded by everything but death, I knew death was our only way out. Am had kept us alive, but there was no way to defeat him. Not total defeat, but at least peace. I would settle for that. I had to do it quickly. Benny was eating Gorster's face, Gorster on his side, thrashing snow, Benny wrapped around him with powerful monkey legs crushing Gorster's waist. His hands locked around Gorster's head like a nutcracker, and his mouth ripping at the tender skin of Gorster's cheek. Gorster screamed with such a jagged, edged violence that the stalactite fell. They plunged down softly, erect in the receiving snowdrifts. Spears, hundreds of them, everywhere, protruding from the snow. Benny's head pulled back sharply, as something grave all at once, and the bleeding raw, white dripping of flesh hung from his teeth. Ellen's face black against the white snow, dominoes in the chalk dust, Nimdok with no expression but eyes, all eyes! Gorster, half conscious. Benny, now an animal. I knew Am would let him play. Gorster would not die, but Benny would fill his stomach. I turned, half to my right, drew a huge ice spear from the snow. All in an instant, I drove the great ice point ahead of me like a battering ram, braced against my right thigh, and it struck Benny on the right side, just under the rib cage, and it drove upwards through his stomach and broke inside him. He pitched forward and lay still. Gorster lay on his back. I pulled another spear free and straddled him, still moving, driving the spear straight through his throat. His eyes closed as the cold penetrated. Ellen must have realized what I had decided, even as fear gripped her. She ran at Nimdok with a short icicle as he screamed, and into his mouth, and the force of her rush did the job. His head jerked sharply, as if it had been nailed to the snow crust behind him. All in an instant, there was an eternity beat of soundless anticipation. I could hear Am draw his breath. His toys had been taken from him. 3 of them were dead, could not be revived. He could keep us alive by his strength and talent, but he was not God. He could not bring them back. Ellen looked at me, her ebony features stark against the snow that surrounded us. There was fear and pleading in her manner, the way she held herself already. I knew we had only a heartbeat before Am would stop us. It struck her, and she folded towards me, bleeding from the mouth, and I could not read meaning into her expression. The pain was too great, had contorted her face. But it might have been a thank you. It's possible. Please.